What's going on, guys? Jensen here. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you the top 5 metrics you need to be looking for to get a 10x ROI or more with your Facebook ads for your painting business. I'm going to go ahead, jump to my iPad, share my screen here, and tell you the top 5 metrics from least important to most important. Give you the metric, give you the formula, give you the target, and show you how you got to use them to scale your business profitably with Facebook ads this year. All right, so the first metric you got to be looking at with your Facebook ads in order to have success and profitability, of course, is the most lowest level metric that you can get with your Facebook ads. That is your cost per lead, otherwise known as CPL. Your cost per lead is essentially what you're paying Facebook to acquire a new customer. Now, this isn't some fixed cost like would you have, with Angie List or Thumbtack. Basically, the cost per lead that you're going to get is dependent on your market, it's dependent on your targeting, it's dependent on your creative, it's dependent on your lead capture, a few variables like that. But the cost per lead is essentially what you're paying Facebook in order to get a lead. It's not fixed. So let's say you're running $100 per day on ads, that's $3,000 per month. And each day you're getting 2 leads. Your cost per lead is $50 per lead. Now, let's say you're in an extremely competitive market. Maybe the market's a little bit slow, or maybe, your creatives are just like static before and after, is not like a selfie video, which tends to actually perform better. Then your cost per lead is going to increase substantially. It's going to go from, maybe 60 to 80 all the way up to 150, $200, things like that. So the formula for the cost per lead, it is ad spend divided by leads equals cost per lead. So the amount you spend on ads divided by the amount of leads that you get is your cost per lead. So let's say, for example, you spend $100 per day, okay, and you get 10 leads, then that means your cost per lead is $10, right? You spent 100, you got 10, that's $10 cost per lead. The ultimate goal with this obviously is to drive your cost per lead to as low as possible while maintaining the overall quality of the leads, right? You got to control quantity and quality and make sure that it fits within your budget. So the target that you should be shooting for your cost per lead. Now, obviously this is going to vary from market to market, the timing of the market, right? December is a little bit more competitive than June, for example. The market in Denver is more competitive than, say, a small rural town in Wisconsin. But a good target that you should be shooting for is between $60 to $100 per lead. These are good, healthy numbers. Obviously, if you have like a $20 cost per lead, I'm not going to get mad at you. But if you have, $150 cost per lead, I might get a little bit frustrated with that for sure. But now if you're coming here and you're like, hey, I have a $20 cost per lead, leads are selling, jobs are getting booked, things like that. It's not to say like, hey, you need to triple your cost per lead right now because, obviously if it's working, don't start messing with the pipes. But a $60 to $100 cost per lead, that is like a good threshold. Now, this is also dependent on the level of friction that you have in the lead capture. Typically, what we use is lead forms, and we have like 5 or 6 questions typically that we ask that increases the overall friction and the overall intent of the leads. So a $60 to $100 cost per lead is a pretty good threshold to be hitting. If you're in that threshold, then you're good to go. The second metric that you should be worried about and you should be actually pacing for and tracking on a regular basis is your cost per appointment, or CPA. I've seen people call it CPO, cost per opportunity. But your cost per appointment is a really, really important metric. Basically what this is what it's costing you to get in front of a customer and give them a quote at their house. So the formula for this is ad spend divided by appointments equals your CPA. So for example, let's say, just for using the purpose of using a full number, let's say you spend $100 and you get 3 appointments, then your cost per appointment is $33. So obviously with a $33 appointment, cost per appointment, that's really, really solid. I just use a full number here just as an example, but a good, healthy target that you should be shooting for your cost per appointment, and where I've seen companies have the most success, is between $150 to $200 per appointment. Now, obviously, again, if you're lower than this, that's fantastic. If you're above this, I believe that it needs a little bit of work on, and you can definitely, do things like increase the friction, increase your set rate. All of that contributes to reducing your cost per appointment. But if you're in that $150 to $200 threshold for your cost per appointment, you're doing fantastic. The third most important metric with your Facebook ads is your cost per close. You can say customer acquisition cost, which is CAC. You can say cost per customer, however you want to swing it. Basically what it is what it's costing you to close a new deal and land a new customer, okay? So the formula for this is ad spend divided by closes. It is your CAC, okay? Now, for example, let's say you spent $1,000 on ads and you got 5 customers. That is a $200 customer acquisition cost, okay? So essentially what this means is you're spending $200. Every $200 that you're spending, you're getting a new customer for your business, okay? Now, I'm going to be going through also about why I put these from least important to most important and how to optimize to get the most important metric as dialed as possible. But the target with your customer acquisition costs that I've seen after scaling over 170 plus painting companies actively right now, the numbers that I see work the best and are the strongest in the market are anywhere from $375 all the way up to $450 customer acquisition cost. Like I said, just like the last ones, if you're below this, fantastic. If you're above this, you might need to get this a little bit dialed in. Obviously, the metric that's more important than this is going to be a little bit more important. Let's say your CAC is extremely high, but the metrics after make more sense, then we'll keep that going. But if you're in that 375 to 450 range with your customer acquisition cost with your Facebook ads, you are pacing well for a good, profitable campaign. Number 4 is obviously the revenue, which essentially is how much am I actually making from my Facebook ads? Now, your revenue is calculated basically based on, the amount of jobs you've booked, the total sales you've booked from the jobs. So that'd be like job 1 plus job 2 plus ... equals rev, right? So let's say you close 5 jobs at $5,000 per job. The total revenue is $25,000. Now, obviously the target for this, there really is no specific target. That's more so going to depend on what you're spending on the ads. And that's the metric that is the most important, which is your return on ad spend, or better known as ROAS, which is your return on ad spend, okay? So the metric for this is essentially total revenue divided by ad spend equals your ROAS, okay? So this is usually in a form of a multiple. I've seen it in forms of percentages if you change up the formula, but what we use is a form of multiples. So for example, let's say you have $100,000, okay? And for that $100,000, in order to have sold that $100,000, you spent $5,000 in Facebook ads, which then means that you have a 20x ROAS. Now, just to break that down into more simple terms, essentially what that means is for every $1 spent, that equals how much in sales. The goal here is to increase that multiple by as much as possible. Okay, so a good target for this, I would say, is greater than 10x. Okay, meaning for every $1 spent, you should be getting at least 10x or more back. Now, as you continuously start increasing your ad spend, right, you go from $1,000 per month to $10,000 a month to $25,000 a month, there gets a point of diminishing returns. It's not in huge multiples, and there's a lot of things you can do to prevent that. But a lot of companies, when they increase their ad spend, they go from 1,000 to 10,000. But when you're increasing your ad spend, you should do it in terms of intervals. So 10 to 15% every 3 to 5 days is typically a good interval. So you monitor it to make sure that your cost per lead, cost per appointment, all those metrics beforehand don't inflate when you bump it, but bump it incrementally in order to maintain your ROAS as much as possible. So a good ROAS that you should be shooting for is at least 10x, okay? Now, the reason I have this from least important to most important is I'm going to work backwards here, okay? Your return on ad spend. This is the most important because this is essentially comparing what you're spending compared to what you're getting out of it, right? So this is more important than revenue because let's say you have $100,000 in revenue, but it costed you $50,000 to get it. Your ROAS is 2x. The $100,000 in revenue sounds fantastic, but if it's costing you $50,000 to get it, that is not as good as what it's costing you for $5,000 or $10,000, where that starts going from a 10x or 20x ROAS, okay? So your return on ad spend right here, this is your North Star. This is the most important metric you should be shooting for when it comes to your Facebook ad spend. The better and the higher your multiple can be right here, the more profitable your Facebook ads will become. Okay. Number 2 is revenue. Again, the reason that ROAS is more important than revenue is because revenue is for vanity, profits for sanity. Your return on ad spend is more important than revenue because, like I said, if you're spending $50,000 to get $100,000, it's not that great, right? Now, revenue is more important than customer acquisition cost because the revenue is also going to be dependent on the average job size that you have with your company. So if you have $5,000 in revenue and you close 5 jobs, your average job size is $1,000, which is not that good. Your average job size, the way I've seen a lot of companies scale, should be around that $4,000 to $6,000 plus range. I see companies that have like a $12,000 average job size, but a good, healthy average job size is around that $4,000 to $6,000 range, okay? So revenue is number 4, okay? Revenue is more important than your customer acquisition costs for the sole purpose of, let's say you have a $300 customer acquisition cost, right? You spent $300 on Facebook ads, you closed 1 job. That sounds fantastic, right? But let's say that the average job size, the revenue closed from that job is also $300. Then essentially right now you're just breaking even, minus obviously the cost of retainer fees if you're using an agency, minus the cost of admin fees if you have an appointment center, minus the cost of labor for your team, minus the cost of products, right? So ultimately, with that being said, you're actually coming by in the negative. So revenue is more important than customer acquisition costs for the sole reason of that's also tied to your average job size. So your CAC, a good range is $375 to $450, right? But also that's going to be more dependent on your average job size. If you're paying $300 for a $3,000 job, that's okay. But if you're paying $300 for a $300 job, that is not okay. I want that multiple, the difference between this to be as high as possible, right? I want your CAC to be as low as possible, and I want your revenue to be as high as possible for that specific job. I want you to spend $300 and get a $30,000 job, okay? Now, cost per appointment is number 2. The reason I have that one as number 2 is because, yes, statistically speaking, the cheaper your cost per appointment, the more opportunities you're going to have to get in front of customers and close them on the job. But again, more appointments doesn't always translate to more sales if you don't have a tight process. If you're not getting in front of the right qualified prospects, things like that all matter, okay? So yes, your cost per appointment should be as low as possible. 150 to 200 is a healthy range. Anything lower than that is great, okay? But again, that's also going to be dependent on if you're setting appointments, if you have enough friction. Sometimes, I've seen people just set as many as appointments as possible to reduce their cost per appointment, but then they show up at their house, give them a quote, but they're just a lot of price shoppers, tire kickers, things like that, okay? So your cost per appointment is number 2. Cost per lead. This is the metric that I see most companies stressing out the most about. However, this is the lowest level metric that you should be optimizing for, because the reason being is if you have $100 cost per lead, right? You might be like, Lucas, you said $100, but like that's kind of the end of the threshold. I care more about the quality. I care more about the end result, which is your return on ad spend and your revenue, okay? So for example, let's say you have a $150 CPL. You might be like, oh, dude, that is so high, right? But then you look at every single lead and realize these are all qualified homeowners, and you have a 100% set rate, bringing your CPA to now being $150. This starts to make a little bit of sense, right? Because now we're in this threshold, okay? And now let's say out of every single one of these appointments, they each turned into a deal, right? So now your CAC right here is $150. That starts to make sense too, right? And out of those $150, those jobs, you closed a job, right? You just closed a job for $15,000, okay? Right? You spent $150, you got $15,000. which ultimately brings your ROAS to 100x. So when you're looking at that, when you're looking at a 100x ROAS, $15,000 in revenue, $150 customer acquisition cost, $150 cost per appointment, does $150 cost per lead really matter to you? The answer is no, because at the end of the day, you are not advertising to get more leads, you are advertising to get more sales. So why not optimize for the end result? And that is where I see a lot of companies fumbling is, let's say they have 2 ads going, okay? One of the ads has a $100 cost per lead, and the other one has a $30 cost per lead. And let's say we're looking at a time period of 1 week, all right? 1 week, in total, the Facebook ads brought in $15,000. The common sense thing that most companies make is, oh my goodness, I booked $15,000 from these ads, okay? I am going to kill the $100 cost per lead, and I'm going to focus on the $30 cost per lead ad campaign, because now all of a sudden I'm going to triple my leads, therefore I'm going to triple my revenue. The issue with that is, unless you're accurately tracking each ad and each lead that comes through and which lead turns into which appointment and which appointment turns into which sale, you have no way to know which ad specifically is bringing in the sales for you. A lot of companies optimize for the lowest level metric, which is your cost per lead. Now, all of a sudden, if you were able to see this data and you were to be like, oh my goodness, I checked out every single lead and they all came from the $100 cost per lead. If you made that decision and you cut down the $100 cost per lead and you focus on the 30, you just cut down the thing that's actually the cash cow for you. You just cut down the thing that's bringing you the actual sales, which is the end goal for your business, right? So what I'm trying to say here is stop optimizing for cost per lead and start optimizing for the end result, which is revenue and return on ad spend, okay? So as a rule of thumb, if the following metric makes more sense than the prior metric, keep it going. If your cost per appointment makes sense, but your cost per lead doesn't make sense, keep it going. If your customer acquisition cost makes sense, but your cost per appointment doesn't make sense, keep it going. If your revenue makes sense, but your customer acquisition cost doesn't make sense, keep it going. If your ROAS makes sense, keep it going. Everything after is more important than the thing prior. That's why we have bottom here is most important and top here is least important. So stop optimizing for the vanity metric and start optimizing for the end result. Now, let me show you how we do this for our clients and get them some pretty incredible results. So something really, really cool here that we've done at Ford Media Marketing is we've actually custom developed our own software because we saw that this is a huge bottleneck in the industry in most businesses is they don't have the accurate data to tell them which ad is actually the one that is bringing in them the sales. So what we've done is, number one, we track every little bit of data for all of our clients. So this is the dashboard that all of our clients get, okay? So this is called Pulse. Pulse is our software that we developed that all of our clients get access to, where essentially it pulls all the metrics directly from Facebook and your CRM and connects it to Pulse so you can open this up and see exactly how the health of your marketing is doing. You get a pulse on your marketing, okay? So these are the metrics of one of our actual clients here, and this is just in the last 2 weeks of this month, okay? So what I'm about to show you is the actual metrics from one of our client accounts. So as you can see right here in Pulse, we have the total ad spend. So he spent $2,405.71, and he, out of this 2.4K in ad spend, got 85 leads, okay? That brings his cost per lead, again, trying to look back at this. Remember, the formula is ad spend divided by leads. His cost per lead is $28.30. Of these 85 leads, he got 46 appointments, bringing his set rate to 54.12%, which is basically 46 divided by 85, right? 46 appointments out of 85 leads, that's 54%. 54% of every single lead in the last 2 weeks for him has turned into an appointment. His cost per appointment is $52.30, right? Which is ad spend divided by appointments. He got 19 closes, which means of these 46 appointments, 19 of them bought from him. His close rate is 41%, which is 19 divided by 46. His cost per close is 126.62, which is ad spend 2.4K divided by 19 is 126.62. His total revenue from these 19 jobs is 83.7K. And his ROAS, which is return on ad spend, is 34.8x, which essentially means for every $1 we spent on ads for this client, he made 34.8x back in sales, or more so, every 2.4K we spent, he directly got 83.7 back in sales over the last 2 weeks, okay? And lastly, his average job size was 4.4K. So of those 19 closes, his average job size was 4,400. So 19 times 44 is 83.7. So this is the actual live data that we have. Now, if you're going to look at the metrics that are the most important that we made to get these types of results for our clients, we're going to, again, look at the top 5, right? So ROAS is number 1. Revenue is number 2. Cost per close is number 3. Cost per appointment is number 4. And then cost per lead is number 5, okay? Now, all of this is not fixed. This is being compared to the ad spend. So the ad spend is a variable. So let's say he has a $5,000 per month budget, right? 2.4 for the last 2 weeks. So his budget per month is $5,000. As long as we continue trending in this direction and maintaining this ROAS, I am extremely, extremely happy. Again, the target ROAS is 10x. If you're greater than 10x, keep it going. So even if this client had a $300 cost per lead, and this number didn't make sense, and this number didn't make sense, but this number and this number did, then I would keep this going, because this and this is the most important metric that you should be shooting for and optimizing for. This right here, cost per close, cost per appointment, and cost per lead are not as important. Yes, they definitely are important and can overall show the profitability of your Facebook ads, but the revenue and the ROAS are definitely the North Star. That is the thing that you should be optimizing for. Now, how we really get this information, this is super, super cool, but this is also in our software Pulse, is essentially what we have is we have the ability to track the leads, the appointments, the closes, the revenue down to each specific ad. That way we can see, okay, let's look at this one right here, okay? Cabinets SIA1, relaunched 01.02.2026, okay? We're able to see that this specific ad generated $39. You can actually pull this information directly from Ads Manager, right? You can, if you pull up Ads Manager, you can see which ad got how many leads, what was it cost per lead. But what you can't see is the appointments, the closes, the appointment set rate, the close rate, the revenue, and the average job size. So let's say, for example, we're saying this specific ad, we spent $2,000 on, okay? We're able to see, okay, but with that $2,000, we got 29.7K back in direct new sales. So a higher cost per lead is okay here because of the revenue, which is the angle, okay? So again, we do this for all of our clients, and we're able to track the leads, the appointments, and the sales down to each specific ad in order to say, hey, we are launching the things that are actually moving the needle in your business. We are launching the things that are actually getting you the leads, the appointments, and the sales. And here's all the data behind that, right? So with that being said, that's why we've been able to have such a high success and high track record for all of our clients. And we have such a great retention rate, is purely for the fact that we are doing things that not many other companies are able to do because they don't have the systems developed that we have. So this software is fully custom to us, and our clients are the only people that have access to this. But with this level of information, we are really able to extract the data that we need to give our clients the confidence that we're scaling their ads profitably, and we're not just optimizing for things like cost per lead or just throwing your ad spend into the wind, but we're actually running the ads that are bringing the revenue in for your business and getting you the sales and the end result, which is scaling your business. So if you are either running Facebook ads right now and you're just not getting the results that you're looking for, or if you're considering running Facebook ads and you're just like, I just don't know how to get started, I don't know what ads work, I don't know what creatives work, I don't know what KPIs are shooting for, click the link right below this video. There's gonna be a link to my team and I's calendar. We're gonna dissect your full business, create a full game plan for you to help you scale. So if you're looking to go from 500,000 to $1 million, or $1 million to $3 million, or $3 million to $5 million, whatever your goal is, our team can help you get there because we've done this for hundreds and hundreds of other painters before. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and check out some of my other videos for some more Facebook ad tutorials to help you get the best results possible. I'll talk to you soon.